your sister. This is what you wanted. I'm coming to get you.
Tell me who you are!
The Three Mothers. Haven't you understood? Mater Tenebrarum. Mater Lacrimarum. Mater Suspiriorum. But men call us by a single name. A name which strikes fear into everyone's heart. They call us Death! Death!
Cover her face with the mask of Satan. Horror Italiano. Inferno.
Welcome to Horror Italiano here on Horror Fiend TV. I am Joe, the psychologist.
What up, Joe the psychologist? It's good to be back and another episode of Horror Italiano, where we talk some of the finest in horror Italian cinema. We got another good one today, man.
Oh yeah, and first watch for you also, right?
Yes.
Yep, definitely first watch for me. And in this episode, we are going to be discussing the 1980 movie Inferno. It is directed and written by Dario Argento, starring Lee McCluskey as Mark Elliott, Irene Miracle as Rose Elliott, Eleonora Giorgi as Sarah, Daria Nicolodi as Elise Adler. An American student investigates the disappearance of his sister and the death of a friend, both connected from New York to Rome by an old alchemy book. All right, so one of the things I want to discuss, because when we decided we were going to do the series, was we were going to do the trilogy. And I was a little curious how it was going to be connected. You know, sometimes trilogies, especially back in the day, can be a little hokey. You know, they kind of pull something and say, well, we'll try this. So for me, I want to discuss at least what your thoughts first were on how Suspiria and Inferno were connected.
I liked how it was loosely related and thematic as opposed to a direct sequel, because it gives you a lot more freedom as far as storytelling. So like if you're like one of us, for example, who's never seen these films before, you don't have to go into this film with having prior knowledge of Suspiria at all to enjoy this one. But if you have seen Suspiria, it's a nice companion piece to put the whole puzzle together. Now we still got a third film to watch to, you know, better connect this universe. But I like that it's loosely based on it and it's not dependent on one film or over the other. And I think it allows for a lot of creative freedom in that sense. You know, I dug it.
So in Suspiria, that's when we met Mater Suspiriorum. In this one, we get to meet Mater Tenebrarum, and she is the mother of darkness. You knew that the character was going to be in here, so we're now into the mystery part of this, because, you know, you're meeting characters all along the way. And you actually got the hint of the Mother of Tears, Lacrimarum, because she was the one that was with him when he was doing his college course.
Mark, yeah.
Mark, thank you.
In Rome, yeah.
In Rome. Yeah. And so that was like the other part, is that you had like two stories going on at the same time in two locations, because the book gives you the locations of the keys. It wasn't so much characters that put together the sequel or what, you know, the continuation. It was the architecture, obviously the set design on the inside, because when you're inside the building, a lot of it did look like Suspiria, the colors and everything. But I just I dug that we just used these two references, which is, you know, this book with this mystery, and, you know, we come to find out that the buildings also all tie into it. So I kind of liked how that it was done that way.
So this building that the alchemist had created for the Mater, anything around it, even surrounding buildings, for example, they're all affected, whether even people and even animals, like your worst like evil instincts in you are more heightened, you know, it brings it out of you, hence why the cats attacked a certain person in this film. All the buildings around this particular one building, they're all dilapidated. There's sickness, like we got the Darius character who's ill. There's vermin everywhere, the rats. It was like an infestation. So all that stuff it's all attributed to this one central building. Because if you notice, all the other buildings that surround it, when people walked in, they were all fucked up. They were run down. It was crazy. So, we'll get into more of the other outlandish shit in this movie. But it's the lore in it, if you want to call it that. It's interesting because it is a little bit of world building. And it is interesting that Daria Nicolodi, right?
Yeah.
She co-wrote this film, but didn't get credit for it. There was some issue with credit because she also co-wrote Suspiria as well, and there was another, behind the scenes drama with all of that. But the fact that everything is tied together and we see a lot of the same people working on this film, it shows. Yeah. So we'll get more into that. But yeah, man.
Yeah. I loved how the storytelling was going on with these two individual stories that eventually come into one.
This film, the one thing it kind of reminded me of was a Lucio Fulci film. Because in those movies, how we mentioned it from The Beyond, for example, how it was more like it was like a nightmare scenario or a dream sequence. This film had a lot of moments like that for me. Like the scene when Rose goes into that underwater apartment complex or the ballroom, for example, all because she dropped her keys. So all of a sudden you got this whole scene about her trying to get her keys back. She goes into the water. Now she sees the painting of the Mater. That's how she realizes that her building is the building in question, and the odors and all that stuff.
It's all...
Exactly. Then when you say, well, this is going on in Rome, where we have Mark, I love how she's there the whole time staring at this motherfucker. Now, let me ask you. Of course, it has to be a Dario Argento movie, because if it's not, we don't get his hands. Every time you see the killer's hands in this movie, it's Dario's hands.
Yeah.
I'm assuming the people killing, like, for example, Carlo and Sarah, when they were murdered in the apartment, that was the actual witch doing that? They never really showed who the fuck was killing people.
So I know in the US it was the Mother of Darkness. She was the one that was in the US. I was a little on the confused with that. I was hoping you might have yourself had an answer for me, because it seemed that they were cleaning up all the people that were connected to this. So when Sarah read the letter, and then she
wanted to protect the three mothers, essentially.
Yes, so then she gets the book and she starts, figuring things out herself. So I don't know if it was the Mother of Tears who jumped in to take care of what was happening in Rome, or they're witches, so she could have flown or teleported over there, and then taking care of what's going on in Rome. That was the only part that there's a couple other ones, but for me was that. And I'm like, well, maybe Rick might have picked up something, because I didn't want to rewatch it to see. But again, I'm probably going to say that it was the Mother of Tears in Rome that took out Sarah and Carlo. And then the Mother of Darkness was the one that was doing the killings in the US.
1000%, because when Mark leaves that apartment, by the way, when Mark finds Sarah, the most deadpan delivery I've ever seen with somebody witnessing someone getting murdered in front of him. The guy did not react at all, bro. No. He's sitting there like, oh. So anyway, when Mark walks out of the apartment building, who drives by in the back of the cab?
Yeah,
it's the Mater. So yeah, dude, 1000% she was the one behind all that. And this film, as far as a first watch, it is a bit disjointed. It could be pretty confusing. I want to go back and watch it again, because this requires multiple viewings to get the whole entire picture. Because like I did say, there are scenes that just come out of nowhere. It's by design, because even Suspiria had it when the random blind guy gets the organ player, he gets killed. I feel like that just came out of nowhere. And this movie is filled with scenes like that, man. Yeah.
I did think of Zombie when she was trying to get away. Granted that it was a dead body, it wasn't trying to actually get to her, but it looked like she was fighting a zombie underwater. It's just trying to, like, I thought about that. I'm like, oh, please don't make this body.
Bro,
Because
I'm like,
it's going to be too, we can't have zombies on top of witches.
nah, well, they weren't, yeah, they were dead bodies, but they were good thing they weren't alive or undead. But I'm thinking to myself the entire time, how long can she hold her breath underwater? Just looking around.
And she's
like,
screaming
what
too
the
at some
hell?
points.
I love
Yeah,
the fact that actress was actually hired for the fact that she was a professional like swimmer to handle that. One thing I want to get into real quick before we move on, you mentioned disjointed. I had used that word, and it's weird because this film, I did a little research on it, and Dario Argento actually was sick during the production of this. He had hepatitis, so a lot of the times he wasn't even on set because he couldn't. He was in so much pain. Mario Bava, actually, who's hired, uncredited, but he was hired. He did a lot of the optical effects, a lot of the special effects on it, a lot of the certain, like the way he would frame certain shots. He was called in to do a lot of this work in this film, and he did some ADR work. He also did some AD work in this movie. And if legend is true, he's the one that actually shot the underwater sequence. That was all Mario Bava there, and also Lamberto Bava, his son, was also, his hands were in this film as well. So when you hear Dario talking about this movie, it's not his favorite because the production was a nightmare for him. And Fox also was a headache because Fox was behind the financing. They got no promotion, a very limited release. They fucked up the movie essentially. So yeah, when you hear all that stuff, it's fascinating because I like knowing the stories behind the films as well. And when you see this movie and it looks like put together by like a lot of different chefs in the kitchen, does has that feeling, but it works. It just works.
As with a lot of Italian movies, at the core of it is a mystery that, needs to be solved. Something to find out why all of this is going on, why certain individuals are having to experience all this. And, here we actually got two revelations. So I'm curious to know if you figured both of them out, and that's who Professor Arnold and the nurse actually were.
I'm usually really, really good at this stuff. Honestly, I wasn't really thinking about it. I didn't think Varelli, who's the alchemist who came up with all this, I didn't think he was going to be in the film at all. So I wasn't even thinking, all right, who was he going to show up as? So when he's the professor, I was surprised. Now, I'll be honest, the nurse I knew already because I had put together the trailer for our Horror Italiano series. So I knew already she was the villain. So when I saw the actress in this movie, I'm like, oh, okay, that's her. Again, that actress was in The Beyond as well. She's the one that got her fucking eyes poked out. And of course, Carlo. You know Carlo. He was the guy, the son who was killed by automobile dragging in Deep Red. So he was in that as well. And of course, we know Dario already. We touched upon her. So yeah, you mentioned it earlier. Horror Italiano, man. It's like all these Italian films. I love how they share all the same actors, man. I mean, half of the films already we done by Dario Argento. But to go back to your question, no, man. I'll be honest. I didn't catch it. Now the nurse, if I probably would not as well guess that, if I'm gonna be honest with you, only because I wasn't really looking for it, and there was a lot of other people in that apartment complex that it could have been. A lot of shady people, like that one guy who was waiting for that woman to die so he could start stealing our shit.
Yeah, well, and then worked with the lady who runs the.
Yeah,
that's who I thought. So I had her pin, and then when they're stealing the stuff, and she
I thought they were all
that,
involved. Yeah.
Well, yeah, she's like, well, she's not coming back. I go, it's her.
Yeah.
She knows she's not gonna come back because she killed her. So. She's the mother of darkness, we get it. And then when they, reveal it, I was like, fuck.
That dumbass killed herself when she fucking caught on fire.
Well, and I was hoping that she wasn't going to go all the way straight through the glass and land on the ground. I'm like, let's not repeat, some really cool deaths that you did in your other movies, especially if it's going to be all tied together. Red herrings all over the place. You get the reveal. I did like, Mark and Mother of Darkness were basically finally they meet, how she just disappeared in the darkness and kept popping up. So I thought it was cool. They didn't have to like spend a lot of money in the fact that she's the Mother of Darkness. She can literally just slip in and out of
yeah, but
areas.
She turned into that skeleton. Let's be real, bro. That was really Halloween.
Yeah, I wasn't.
That was a little. It was charming though. I found it endearing. Like, okay, all right, that looks like a Halloween prop, but
I know. I'm gonna say that kind of killed. Like the other little nitpick I would do is
I wouldn't take it.
For death. And it turned into that. I'm like, oh man, like, but I still appreciate it.
Yeah, it didn't knock it. It didn't knock points off of it for me. I appreciated it.
Yes,
I like a little
just
cheese
weird.
every now and then, but the contrast was weird. It didn't match with the film at all.
No, it was just a weird thing that like popped up. Borelli being introduced, because he knows all the secrets. So this movie is pretty much setting us up for the Mother of Tears, because we now know there's one last house left. There's one last mother left. Both of the other mothers perished, in the fire in their homes. So kind of thinking that,
Are you thinking in the Mother of Tears is going to have the same actress playing? I mean, it's a long time, bro.
I hope not. Well, yeah, no, she's not going to look the same.
Yeah.
Well,
before we move on though, you mentioned Varelli. Like, this film has a lot of characters that plummeted to their death in the most like outlandish ways because of them being stupid. We mentioned the lady with the fire. The one guy, the guy who fell into the water and couldn't get up. I'm glad he got it.
I knew why.
Oh
when I
my
was
God.
seeing the cat part, I'm like, oh God.
That was unnecessary. Argento is little. I'm noticing stuff about this guy, man. He likes like killing real lizards, whether in deep red. I'm like, bro, you could have had him attempt to drown the cats. He didn't have to drown the cats because he got killed. But he falls into the water. He can't get up because he's crippled. He's like, help! They need to be alive! And by the way, that one random hot dog vendor who ran to save him, and then he just kills him. Like, what the fuck? What's going on? But again, he's affected by the area, I'm assuming, because of the building is not too far from there. But again, Varelli kills himself because he fucking falls. And the apparatus that he uses to talk, because he can't speak, it starts choking him. How are these people killing themselves? I found that funny. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it was actually that death was pretty funny because he's not even strong enough to be able to pull, like, literally the thing. It's a fucking jack.
Mind you, he pulled a fucking Martin and he tried to inject him with a syringe.
Yeah.
You guys sucking the poison. Not poison though. Whatever.
Yeah. Hey, that was a smart idea, to be honest with you. When he did it, I'm like,
that was pretty smart.
I gotta try to remember that in case I'm ever injected by somebody out of nowhere.
It wouldn't work though, but
it works for snake bites. I will say though, because especially with the cat one, I'm like, oh God, and like you said, he kept trying it.
God,
so inside the bag was robotics that were basically moving around. There was no cats in the bag in any of the drowning scenes.
I would
they literally
not.
Yeah, no,
gentle.
I wanted to make sure to look this up for you just to let you know.
Bro, I was
no
so
cats were
mad,
drowned,
bro. I'm like, come on, bro.
I
really?
mean, and it's weird because it's like such a you've seen it in cartoons, you've seen it in like other stuff where they do that. They put the kittens in a bag and drown. It's such a terrible way to do it, but and now that I'm telling you it's robotic, when you go look it back, if you see how the bag kind of moves, whatever was in there, they had a couple things in there that just kept moving around to do that.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm filming that scene, I would have him attempt to drown the cats. While he's attempting, then he falls in. The cat survives. He gets eaten by rats. Everyone's happy, but the fact that they still went along and had him drown the cats, like, what's the point, man?
Well,
Argento, you sick motherfucker.
So the hot dog guy, when he ran across, so they put a plexiglass. So when he was literally, it looked like he ran on water, they had put a plexiglass, and that's why you see him. But I thought that was the most randomest shit.
That was the most random scene, brother.
But then because we're dealing with witches, and he's drowning, the Mother of Darkness's familiars. that she just used her powers. Basically her familiars are being drowned right now. She can sense it, put a spell on this guy who got up from chopping his hot dogs to go run and basically slit his throat. But I gotta say, death by 100 rats does not look fun.
No, but the fact that he would say, "Help! They're eating me alive!"
They're eating me alive. Yeah, no, that shit did not look fun, because I'm sitting there going, God, can you imagine if you're crippled and you're literally, and then the more rats kept coming out? I'm not gonna lie, I don't like rats either.
I don't like rats at all.
So when they showed that many, I'm like, oh, no, this is not good. All right, man, let's take this one home. I'm going to say it's another one that I'm so glad I got to watch. Looking forward to the third one. I'm just hoping that, since the time that it came out, if it's going to be a little different. Still, give me any last minute thoughts you have here. Let's go ahead and bring this one on home.
Let's do it. Oh man, stuff I loved about this film. Let's start. The colors. I mean, blue, red, and green is the primary color palette used for this to perfection.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we mentioned the music. Goblin did not do it, but the musician was an actual prog rocker who they hired to do this. His name escapes me right now, but I think it was a little different. I mean, it's not Goblin. But the scene when Sarah's in the cab and you got that funky jazz type, like, I don't know what it was, but it was so fucking cool.
It was.
The colors and the way that everything, like, you see the rain behind her and just the cab just moving and the reflections passing through her with different colors and that music and her expressions. Everything about that scene was fucking fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
I love that. This film it's weird because what I dug about it, it's a revolving door of characters. Because there's, like, aside from Mark, who was probably the most blandest character I've seen in a fucking horror film. Guy was so boring, but it's not really. He was the brother that was called into this, but to me, all the female characters introduced felt like main characters.
Yeah.
So you were not expecting them to die. So it kept starting over in a sense. We got this one character in Rose. She gets it. We think we're gonna follow Sarah. Sarah gets it. And then Daria's character, we think we're gonna follow her now. Then she gets it. So we're left with the most boring character in the whole fucking movie to survive everything. But I like that. I like how it was more of an ensemble. It felt different to me.
Yeah.
And I dug that a lot. And the transitions, bro, the transitions were on point. The one transition that really stood out to me when they had like the matte paintings of like the building, then it transitioned to the actual building itself. That was beautiful. Or when it's raining, and then it transitioned to the next scene like seamlessly. Beautiful. The camera work, awesome in this film as well. And yeah, man, I really, this is a movie I gotta see more of. I have to see more because one viewing is not enough for this film. It's just not. There's too much going on. It can be a bit confusing if you're not really paying attention, because again, the filmmaking does feel disjointed because certain scenes are there, but it's just they come out of nowhere. Like, they don't make sense in a way. It's almost like a dreamlike sequence or a nightmare scenario like we talked about in The Beyond. And I think that's just how Italian horror films are structured, and this film is full of it. But because it was different than Suspiria, I dug that. I liked the way this whole film came about, but the main character, Mark, was just boring, man. That's like the worst part of the movie to me, man. How about you, bro? What you got?
All right, so was the movie dubbed?
Yes, of course. All Italian films are.
So here's the thing. So McCluskey, the guy who played Mark, that dude is an American. Hold on, he's an American actor. The guy he still has been in current stuff. Like, he's done things like Dallas. He's done soap
By the way,
operas.
you mentioned American actor. The original choice was James Woods, but he did Videodrome instead. So they got this guy.
But so it's once again, because I had talked about this when they did it with opera, with the one character that I said to you, the guy's American, I know. And so they did it again. So that's my only little weird part. But like in my head, I'm like, so did they have these guys like speak Italian, or they they act it out in English, and then you're going to go ahead and dub over. Like it was the only weird part, because I actually knew who Mark was. I had seen him because I saw TV shows. I've seen him before. So, and I'm looking and going, that's not what he sounds like. You have the architecture, the use of color is the thread between Inferno and Suspiria. Mother of Tears came out in 2007. We have different cameras, we have different technology. I'm hoping that the transition, if we're going to still have that one common thread, especially if we're going to be showing the building, because at this point, our next stop is Rome. Gonna definitely rewatch. I know you didn't like Mark, but I still like the whole storyline, and it gave us a final guy. So we're gonna see how many. You didn't. I was waiting to see this, but we're gonna see how many Italian movies are gonna give us final guys. Generally, it's a final girl. So you got a final guy in this one. So I kind of appreciated that too. Maybe again, actor choice. James Woods would have probably been really good for this. But overall, this was a great movie. So guys, I definitely recommend for you guys to check it out. It is available on Prime as well as AMC Plus.
One thing I gotta say too, I purchased Suspiria for the collection after I've seen it. This I will be buying as well. I gotta keep them together. When I watch it on AMC Plus, I don't like that those films on there, for the most part, they take the versions that they use to play on TV. Because in my version, when I saw it, I don't know about you, there was sections where it would pause for commercial breaks. You could tell.
It did look like that. Yeah.
That's not part of the film. There's no way. Filmmakers don't do that.
Yeah,
So we got even though I'm hoping it wasn't edited. I mean, I don't know.
Well,
I don't know.
Tell you what, how about this? We don't have to do an episode on it. You saw it on AMC. Let's both, when we rewatch it, we'll check it out on Prime and see if Prime.
I went back and it's the same version.
Oh, all right. Well, then
because it goes off the AMC Plus version. I trust me. I tried.
All right.
Once I saw
that was
first,
a little weird.
Because it dips into black and then it comes back. So wait a minute, that's a commercial pause. Oh fuck, I was so mad.
I thought the same thing too. All right, good.
Yeah.
At least it wasn't just me then.
No, you're good, brother.
Thank you for joining. Make sure, if you have not yet, to hit that subscribe button. Our next episode after this is going to be Black Sunday. Another first watch for me. Is this going to be a first watch for you? Or
yeah, Mario Bava, baby. We're going back to the Bav.
So make sure to join us for next time and support Italian horror cinema.